All right. Yeah, that's my lovely husband in the back there. He's watching me right now. Okay. Yep, he just got back from shooting all day. What a tough world, huh? They just shoot all day. All right. Oh, wait. Don't have my pencil. Get my pencil. Get it in black. All right. We're going to do 5.5. It's the last one in this chapter, and it's the last one before your major test. So let's make sure that we get this one nice and clear. Okay, I'm going to remind you, remember when you had same bases, you subtracted exponents, okay? Meaning if I had x to the 5th in the numerator and x to the 3rd in the denominator, that means I got 5 up here and 3 down here. So I get rid of these 3 and I'm left with 2 on the top. So I'm left with x squared. Now if it was the other way around, if I had x to the 3rd on top and x to the 5th on the bottom, again, get rid of the 3, but I'd be left with 2 down here. So I'd have 1 over x squared. I just want you to remember, you subtract exponents, okay? All right, so if I had something like this, 15x squared minus 12x plus 6, all divided by 3. I want you to consider that you can rewrite this as 3 separate equations or 3 separate fractions, okay? All I did was I put the 3, divided each piece by the 3. So we know that becomes a 5 and that becomes a 1. I'm left with x squared minus that becomes a 4 and that becomes a 1, 4x plus that becomes a 2 and that becomes a 1 plus 2. And there's my answer. Now, let's look at the same thing again, just a little bit different. What if I had, let's see if I can write this over here. There we go. I'm here. All right, let's see, what if I had 5m cubed minus 9m squared plus 10m, all divided by 5m squared. Well, that means I can rewrite it as 5m cubed divided by 5m squared minus 9m squared divided by 5m squared plus, this line was just there, 10m divided by 5m squared. All right, now let's talk about what we can reduce. Okay, well, the 5 becomes a 1 and the 5 becomes a 1. And there's 3 up here and 2 down here of m's. So those 2 are gone, and I'm left with 1m up here. 9 and 5 doesn't reduce, but m squared and m squared reduces. 10 and 5 become 2 and 1, and there's 1m up here and 2 down here, so that one's gone, and I'm left with 1 there. So what do I have left here? M minus 9/5 plus 2 over m. And that's my answer. All right, let's look at another one. Make sure it's not muted. Okay, I'm still there. I have to make sure this thing never turns off. Okay, what if I had 8xy squared minus 9x squared y plus 6x squared y squared, and it was all over x squared y squared? Well, that would be 8xy squared divided by x squared y squared minus 9x squared y divided by x squared y squared plus 6x squared y squared divided by x squared y squared. All right. Now, here, 8 and 1 doesn't reduce, but I have 1x here and 2 here. So that one's gone, and I'm left with 1. Y squared and y squared are gone. So I'm left with 8 over x minus x squared gone, 1y and 2 y's means I'm left with 1y. So I have 9 over y plus x squared, y squared. So I just have 6. And that is the answer. Now, I want you to realize that in all of the ones that I just showed you, what was being divided into, what was in the denominator, all was only a monomial. Hang on. Here, Bill. Here. There you go. Sorry, I'm at home and I had to let my dog out. Okay. It all had only one piece in the bottom, because now we're going to look at something that actually has 2 pieces or is a binomial. Okay? M minus 2. 2 pieces separated by addition or subtraction. We no longer can separate it into fractions and reduce. Now we have to do what we call long division. Remember this? Now, let me just remind you, if I had 2 into, let's say, 8, 6, 3, 1, we would say 2, what do I multiply 2 by to get 8? Or 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract and bring the rest down. And then you start all over. 2 times what is 6? 3. Then you multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. And then you subtract, e is 0, and you bring the rest down. 2 goes into 3 once, which is 2. Then you subtract, which is 1, and bring the next one down. 2 goes into 11 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10, and you subtract, and you have a remainder of 1. And when you do the remainder, you always put this in the numerator and this in the denominator. Now, I'm reminding you of that algorithm or that rule, because this is what we're going to do here. But we're only going to look at the leading piece, the leading monomial. M goes into 2m squared, or what would I multiply m by to get 2m squared? I would need a 2 and an m. Now, once you decided this number, then you multiplied and you put it here and you subtracted. So let's do this. 2m times m is 2m squared, and 2m times negative 2 is negative 4m. Now, what's the next thing we do? We subtract. And subtract means to change the signs. Okay, and what do we get? 2m n squared minus 2m squared is gone. 1m plus 4m is 5m, and I bring down the rest. And I start all over again. What would I multiply m by to get 5m? 5. 5 times m is 5m. And 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. But we are subtracting, and when you subtract, you change the signs. Okay, so now we combine. That gives me 0, because that cancels out. And negative 10 and negative positive 10 cancel out. So I have no remainder, so there's my answer, 2m plus 5. All right, let's do another one. Let's look at another one. What if I had 2k squared plus 17k plus 30 all divided by k plus 6? All right, k plus 6 here. 2k squared plus 17k plus 30. Looking at the leading coefficient, what would I multiply 2k by to get 2k, or what would I multiply k by to get 2k squared? 2 and k. 2k times k is 2k squared, and 2k times 6 is 12k. Now I'm subtracting, so I change the signs. Now I combine, and this cancels out. 17k and negative 12k is 5k, and I bring down the rest. And I start all over again. What would I multiply k by to get 5k? And multiply by 5. 5 times k is 5k, and 5 times 6 is 30. But I'm subtracting, so I have to change the signs. Now I can combine, and the 5k and the negative 5k cancel out, and the 30 and the negative 30 cancel out. So I have no remainder, so my answer is 2k plus 5. All right, let's look at another one. What if I had, okay, it's going to be written like this. 3x cubed minus 2x plus 5 divided by x minus 3. Now, something we have to be very careful with is missing terms. If I asked you to write 1025, would you write it like that, or would you write it like this? Well, obviously like this. But what's missing? What's missing is the 0. What's missing is the hundredths place. It was 1025. We had no hundredths place, so you had to put a 0. Well, that's no different when you're doing these problems. You have to have a placeholder. And what I want you to realize is I have x to the third, I have x, but I don't have any x squared. So when I go to put this inside, whiteboard is driving me nuts. When I go to put this inside, I have the 3x cubed. I have no x squared. I have plain x, and then I have 5. You have to put it in descending order, and it has to have all the order, okay? So I have 3, I have 2, here I have 3, here I have 2, here I have 1, and here I have none. You have to make sure that you put that 0 in there for the placeholder. All right, looking at the leading coefficient, what would I multiply x by to get 3x cubed? 3x squared. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed, and 3x squared times negative 3 is negative 3x squared. Now we are subtracting, so we change the signs. And then we can combine like terms, which gives this cancels out. No x squared and 3x squared gives me 3x squared. And then you bring down the rest. And you start all over again. What would I multiply x by to get 3x squared? I would need a 3 and an x. 3x times x. You know what? I just made a mistake. What did I make? When we multiplied this times this, we got 3x cubed. But what's this times this? Negative 9. So this would be 9. So we're just going to start all over. Let's start all over, because I don't want you to be confused there. I made a mistake. All right. Let me rewrite this problem. 3x cubed minus 2x plus 5, all divided by x minus 3. We notice there's 0x squared. So when we write this, we have to keep that placeholder. So we have 3x cubed plus 0x squared minus 2x plus 5. What would I multiply x by to get 3x cubed? 3x squared. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed, And 3x squared times negative 3 is negative 9x squared. But we are subtracting, so we have to change the signs. Now we can combine. Those cancel out. Bring down the 9x squared because no x's plus 9, or no x squared plus 9x squared is 9x squared. And bring down, oops, minus 2x plus 5. Now, start all over again. What would I multiply x by to get 9x squared? 9x. 9x times x is 9x squared, and 9x times negative 3 is negative 27x. But we are subtracting now, so we have to change the signs. This becomes negative, that becomes positive, that cancels out, and the other gives me negative 2 and positive 27, give me 25x plus 5. All right, what would I multiply x by to get 25x? 25. 25 times x is 25x, and 25 times negative 3 is negative 75. But I need to subtract now, so I change the sign. That cancels out, and what am I left with? 80. I'm done. I have a remainder. So how do I write? Well, it's positive 80 over x minus 3. And there is your answer. All right, let's try another one. You'll start to see it. Oops. Let's try another one that has a missing term. 4x cubed plus 3x minus 8 divided by x plus 2. X squared is missing. So I'm going to put the x plus 2 on the outside, and on the inside I have 4x cubed, 0x squared, and then 3 x's and minus 8. All right, looking at the leading x, what would I need to multiply it by to get 4x cubed? I would need 4x squared. 4x squared times x is 4x cubed, and 4x squared times 2 is 8x squared. And now I'm subtracting, so I change the sign. Those cancel out, and I'm left with 0x squared, and negative 8x squared is negative 8x squared. And I bring down the 3x and the negative 8. And I start all over. What would I multiply x by to get negative 8x squared? Negative 8x. Negative 8 times x, negative 8x times x is negative 8x squared, and negative 8x times 2 is negative 16x. Now I'm subtracting, so I change the sign. That becomes a positive, and that becomes a positive, and those cancel out. And left here, I have 3x, and positive 16x gives me 19x, and I bring down the negative 8. And I start all over. What would I multiply x by to get 19x? 19. 19 times x is 19x, and 19 times 2 is 38. But I'm subtracting, so I change the sign. That becomes a negative, and that becomes a negative. And those cancel out, and negative 8 and negative 38 give me negative 46. And this is my remainder, so it's negative minus 46 over x plus 2. And that is your answer. All right. Look at a couple more. Look at a really big one. Okay? Look at a really big one. What if I had, I'm going to write it like this. 6r to the 4th plus 9r to the 3rd plus 2r squared minus 8r plus 7 divided by 3r squared minus 2. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1, none. But look at what we're dividing by. 2, we are missing just a plain r. So you can miss them on the outside too. So you're going to put 3r squared plus 0r minus 2 into 6r to the 4th plus 9r to the 3rd plus 2r squared minus 8r plus 7. All right, what would I multiply 3r squared by to get 6r to the 4th? 2r squared. 2r squared times 3r squared gives me 6r to the 4th. 2r squared times 0r gives me 0r cubed. 2r squared times negative 2 gives me negative 4r squared. But we are subtracting, so we need to change the signs. Now we can combine. Those cancel out. 9r cubed and 0, whether it's negative or positive, doesn't matter. You bring down the 9r cubed. 2r squared plus 4r squared is 6r squared. And we bring these down. Minus 8r plus 7. And we start all over again. What would I multiply 3r squared by to get 9r cubed? I would need 1r. 1r times 3r squared gives me 9r cubed. 1r times 0 gives me that 0r squared place. And 1r times negative 2 is negative 2r. But we are subtracting, so we change the signs. Negative, negative, positive. Now we can combine. Those cancel out. 6r squared and a nothing 0 is still 6r squared. And negative 8r and positive 2r is negative 6r. And bring down the 7. Let me start all over. What would I multiply 3r squared by to get 6r squared? 2. 2 times 3r squared is 6r squared. 2 times 0r is 0r. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. But we are subtracting, so we change the sign. Negative, positive, positive. Now we can combine. Those cancel out. Bring down the negative 6r and bring down the 11. Now, this is higher than this. We can't go any farther. So you have negative 6r plus 11 over 3r squared minus 2 for your remainder, and there's your answer. Wow. All right, one more. Let's look at one really big one. Okay? I'm going to put it in the right. It has everything we need. 2z plus 5 into 2z cubed. This is minus 5z squared plus 6z minus 15. All right? Looking at the leading coefficient, hello, son. What would you multiply 2z by to get 2z cubed? Z. Z times 2z is 2z cubed. Z times 5 is 5z squared. No, it's not. Oh, this is the one that's going to make me put it in the right. Never mind. Let's start over. This is the one where we have to line it up. You guys leaving?
I am.
All right. Bye, sweetie. Have a good night. All right. Let's do that again. Look what you have to do. 2z into 2z cubed. You would have to multiply it by z. Z times 2z is 2z cubed. Z times 5 is 5z. Make sure you line them up right. Now remember, we are subtracting, so we change the sign. Now, that cancels out. This comes down. And look what happens. Does 2z go into negative 5z squared whole? No. So this was, I must have wrote this down incorrectly. Well, because you can't go any farther. So I doubt they're going to give you one like this, but if they did, you just wouldn't go to be z plus negative 5z squared plus z plus 15 over 2z plus 5, which is kind of silly. So let's do a different one. Let me change it up here. I might have wrote it down wrong. It was probably this. 2z cubed minus 5z squared plus 6z minus 15 divided by z minus 5. All right. What would I multiply z by to get 2z cubed? 2z squared. 2z squared times z is 2z cubed, and 2z squared times negative 5 is negative 10z squared. Now, we are subtracting, so we have to change the signs. Those cancel out, and this brings down, combined gives me 5z squared, because positive 10 and negative 5, and then you bring down the rest. Start all over. Z times 5z squared is 5z. 5z times z gives me 5z squared. 5z times negative 5 gives me negative 25z. Remember, we are subtracting, so we change the sign. That cancels out, and I get 25 plus 6. I get 31z minus 15. What would I multiply z by to get 31z? 31. 31 times z is 31z, and 31 times negative 5 is negative 155. But I'm subtracting, so I change the signs. That cancels out, and what do I get here? 155 minus 15 is 140. So I have a remainder of 140 over z minus 5. And now that I'm thinking about this, I did this wrong. Okay, I see what I was doing. What would I multiply 2z by to get 2z cubed? It would have to have been 2z squared. That's where I messed up. So we can actually, just because I don't want you to be confused, let's see if I can do this one more time. Okay, 2z into 2z cubed, you need z squared. Z squared times 2z is 2z cubed, and z squared times 5 is 5z squared. See, it lines up. Now, we are subtracting, so we're going to change the signs. All right, what do we get? That cancels out. You get negative 10z squared plus 6z minus 15. Now, what would I multiply 2z by to get negative 10z squared? Negative 5z. Negative 5z times 2 is negative 10z squared. Negative 5z times 5 is negative 25z. Now, we're going to subtract, which means we have to change the signs. All right, what do we get when we change those signs? These cancel out. We get 31z minus 15. What would I multiply 2z by to get 31z? Now we have a fraction, so we stop and we say 31z minus 15 over 2z plus 5. Okay, glad I was able to fix that. That would have drove me nuts. Okay, that's 5.5. That's the end of this chapter, so it's chapters 3 and 5 that you're going to take a test on this week, and I will record the next chapter, 6.1 and 6.2, probably tomorrow or Wednesday, because I figure you don't need that until after you take your test. So, all right. Have a good night. Bye.